My dear viewers, hello and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today. My name is Amal Mukhtar. Well, the Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, have represented President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and have addressed the Korean African Summit in Seoul, and she have emphasized Egypt's commitment to tackling the continent's challenges. We have more in the following report.
Minister of International Cooperation Rania Al-Mashat, representing President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, addressed the Korean Africa Summit in Seoul, emphasizing Egypt's commitment to tackling the continent's challenges and fostering economic development. The summit, co-chaired by South Korean President and President of Mauritania, saw participation from 48 African nations. Al-Mashat underscored the enduring bilateral relations between Egypt and South Korea, highlighting South Korea's significant role in numerous successful projects within Egypt. This has been particularly evident after the Korean government designated Egypt a priority partner in development cooperation, injecting substantial funding to bolster economic ties between the two countries. The total economic cooperation portfolio between the two nations has now reached $1.3 billion, with both countries aspiring to further expand their strategic partnership. The minister acknowledged the achievement and challenges facing the African continent, noting significant strides in activating the African Continental Free Trade Area and progressing on the 2063 development agenda, while acknowledging ongoing political, security and economic challenges. Al-Mashat emphasized Egypt's dedication to playing a pivotal role in addressing these challenges, particularly in the areas of development, stability and reconstruction. She cited Egypt's leadership within the African Union Development Agency and its focus on reconstruction efforts as examples of this commitment. Al-Mashat called for enhanced economic cooperation among southern countries, particularly with Africa, emphasizing the importance of shared experiences and successful policies to address common challenges like climate change, declining urban land, and food security. She highlighted Egypt's willingness to share its expertise in infrastructure development, citing the Julius Nyerere hydropower station in Tanzania as a model project, and stressed the need for knowledge exchange programs in areas like formulation economic strategies and climate change mitigation technologies.
Well, the risk of the immigration from Africa to Europe is our main topic today, and we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone to shed light on this topic, Dr. Ashraf Milad, immigration expert. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Hi.
Well, Dr. Milad, how do you see the risk of the immigration from Africa to Europe, as the UN Refugee Agency have warned from this? Hundreds and thousands are fleeing from Africa to Europe, searching for job opportunities or other opportunities.
Okay, this phenomenon escalated since 2013. The summer of 2013, and had led to, I think some of the estimations said that there are around like 30,000 deaths so far for those who couldn't make the trip from the southern to the northern coast of the Mediterranean. The huge problem is even Europe started to complain about this mass influx of Africans, and they urged that these North African countries to put some kind of control on this irregular migration. Of course, the main reason is that to protect these countries from irregular migration, because they don't know who are crossing these borders irregularly. In addition, of course, that the UN agency is also concerned about the big number of deaths every year for those who don't manage to cross the Mediterranean in a very old and overcrowded boats which are not designed to cross the Mediterranean.
Yes. So, Dr. Milad, now the migration rates into Europe have been increasing recently in the recent years, and the percentage is rising day by day, and especially now the rate is rising since the year, especially since the year 2022. What is the reason behind this?
Okay, part of this issue is the wars, like civil wars in the African, sub-African continent, which would lead to two main reasons. The first reason is like direct travel, direct departure from a war-torn zone, like in Sudan, started from last year, April 2023. And the second reason is a war in a country that's overlooking the Mediterranean, like Libya, for example, would open the gate for the militias to facilitate this kind of irregular migration, which makes Libya, for example, like one of the main, let's say that departure points to Europe. So this reason would lead to two kind of direct results to migrate, let alone, of course, famine and sometimes even like a lack of job opportunities, as you just indicated.
Yes, Dr. Milad, it's true that the reports have that were issued said that the war in Sudan and also in Libya, the conflicts in Libya have drove the thousands to flee their countries. Actually, I'd like to ask you, Dr. Milad, about the role of the Security Council in dealing with the migration issue from Africa to Europe.
Okay, as we all know that the main target, the main role of the Security Council is maintaining international peace and security. So with regards to Libya, starting from the year 2015, it issued a resolution, like member states of the Security Council, with support of other regional organizations, the Security Council issued a resolution that would enable these countries in the high seas to inspect and sometimes to confiscate the vessels, the overcrowded vessels that cross the Mediterranean, to inspect them if they think that they are used for regular smuggling of migrants and human trafficking. Both are, of course, dangerous to the peace and international peace and security. So starting from 2015, and it's renewed annually, that to enable these countries in the high seas to inspect these boats filled with irregular migrants or even people who are a victim of human trafficking.
Yes. Also, Dr. Milad, the role of the EU Parliament that also have warned from the policy of the migration from Africa to Europe.
Right. We have to admit that this migration from the northern Mediterranean, from the southern part of the Mediterranean to the north, is a headache to Europe. Europe, since, as I indicated, since 2013, started turning its borders to fortress. Now even the term used is the European fortress, because they don't want this mass influx of people. I mean, just let's. If I told you what is the total number of Africans, the population in Africa, it's around 1.5 billion. So if they don't put an end for this irregular migration, I think, let's say, if 10% of this number, which means 150 million Africans migrate to Europe because the situation, because of the famine, because of the war, lack of opportunity for, even sometimes for security reasons, there will be another many waves to Europe. So cooperation with the North African countries to put some control on this is also part of the EU plan to combat this irregular migration, and proper implementation of the Palermo protocols of 2000 of combating irregular migration and trafficking in person.
Yes. So, Dr. Milad, most of the countries are exerting efforts, and usually, especially Egypt, whether President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi or Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, in all their talks or meetings with European officials, they put the migration issue high on the agenda of the talks. What do we expect in the coming future? Do we expect a near conference on this issue?
Well, Egypt, starting from 2016, is part of many international events relating to irregular migration, because Egypt is even described by IOM, International Organization of Migration, as one of the champion countries. that managed to prevent or to combat irregular migration and trafficking in persons starting from 2016. So Egypt is not only because it's one of the North African states that some of the irregular migrants depart from its shores, but because also of its successful experience in like maximizing the punishment for irregular migration starting from the Egyptian shores and even cooperation with other neighboring states in North Africa.
Yes. I thank you very much for your time. Thank you
My
for your
pleasure.
valuable information. I really had the pleasure to have this phone with you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf Milad, immigration expert. I had the pleasure to have this phone with you. Ladies and gentlemen, a short break and I'm going to be back with you. Welcome back. While Somalia was elected in order to serve the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member for 2 years. The details in the following report.
Somalia was elected to serve on the United Nations Security Council as a non-permanent member for 2 years. Denmark, Greece, Pakistan and Panama also got seats on the United Nations Security Council in a secret ballot in the General Assembly. The 193-member world body elected 5 countries. The 10 non-permanent seats on the 15-member council are allotted to regional groups that usually select their candidates but sometimes can't agree on one. There were no such surprises this year. This time the regional groups put forward Somalia for an African seat, Pakistan for an Asia-Pacific seat, Panama for a Latin America and Caribbean seat, and Denmark and Greece for 2 mainly Western seats. The freshly elected council members will start their terms on the January 1st, replacing those whose 2-year terms end on December 31st, Mozambique, Japan, Ecuador, Malta and Switzerland. They will join the 5 veto permanent members, the United States, Russia, China, United Kingdom and France, and the 5 countries elected last year, Algeria, South Korea, Sierra Leone and Slovenia. The Security Council is charged with maintaining international peace and security.
Well, the International Organization for Immigration is warning that the number of the people that have been displaced by the conflict inside Sudan topped 10 million or could top 10 million in the coming period. The world's worst internal displacement crisis continues to escalate. We have more in the following report.
The International Organization for Migration is warning that the number of people displaced by conflict inside Sudan could top 10 million in the coming days. The world's worst internal displacement crisis continues to escalate, with looming famine and disease adding to the havoc wrought by conflict. IOM's displacement tracking matrix, which issues weekly statistics, recorded 9.9 million people internally displaced across all 18 states in Sudan this week, 2.8 million prior to the April 2023 war, and 7.1 million since. More than half of all internally displaced persons are women and over a quarter are children. In total, some 12 million have been forced to flee their homes in Sudan, with more than 2 million crossing borders into neighboring countries, particularly to Chad, South Sudan and Egypt. After years of protracted crisis, full-scale civil war erupted in the mid-April 2023 when fierce fighting between the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces broke out in the capital Khartoum and quickly expanded across the huge country, home to nearly 50 million people. Last week, the Inter-Agency Standing Committee, the highest-level humanitarian coordination forum of the United Nations system, issued a stark warning that the situation in Sudan had reached catastrophic levels.
Well, with this, my dear viewers, we come to the end of this episode of our program, Africa Today. My name is Amal Mukhtar. Thank you for watching.